what you're looking at here is a post-capture data analysis that comes up after an ENSO swing, and we can look at some parameters here that we think are important. And this is just a limited amount of the data we have, but something just to show you, after a swing's done, some kind of relative important information at the end of every swing, right? So here's some cool stuff. Max handle speed. This is like how fast your hands are moving in your downswing, the fastest point. And in this case, they were 24.6 miles an hour, okay? That's pretty fast. And handle speed here means what happened at impact. The handle speed's at 17.5 miles an hour. And if you look at that difference, that's about a 7 mile per hour difference. You decelerate your hands at impact, okay, 7 miles an hour from when they were the fastest, okay? And during the downswing, your shaft deflected 2.67 inches. And that gives us an idea of whether the shaft's too soft or stiff. We can actually see where the max deflection occurs during your downswing. And that, to us, has a lot to do with feel. When people say it's too stiff, like a board, or it's too loose and it's getting away from them, we could correlate these people's subjective opinions on what is too soft and too stiff, and we now have a number that's kind of dialed in. And what's important about that one is that a lot of people can't tell feel. And so if they can't tell feel and they can't express it to us, we can make sure we put them in that realm, okay, as part of the fitting, right? Say, hey, look, if we feel that everyone should be in about 3.5 inches of deflection, most people seem to prefer that, who can express it. When you can't express it, we want to make sure you're still in that range. Okay. This tells us about, these next three, we'll talk about how the shaft behaves at impact. This shaft was leading forward of the shaft handle. It's like 0.36 inches. And it was drooping 1.56 inches. Okay, 1.5 inches in droop. And it was open 0.2 degrees. So from a shaft point of view, we want to know these three things and say, what did the shaft do? Because we could stiffen the shaft or soften it, stiffen the twist, change all those parameters, and we can affect these three things. Okay. But most people, from a shaft point of view, we want to know what that is, but from your point of view, you'd be like, what the heck does that do for me?
That's my point. I don't understand, because with something as in-depth as this, talking about the lead and then the droop.
What the frick, right?
Yeah, I don't
yeah, because those things will actually change the club head orientation.
Okay.
Now that's where the magic is, okay? So these next three things we're going to talk about are going to be what did that shaft do, how did it influence the head's orientation? So here is where it is. The shaft contributed to the club head loft. It added 4 degrees. So if that static loft is 10.5, it's now a 14.5 at impact. Okay. And the head lie changed 8 degrees toe down. Okay, so it's basically bending the lie angle down 8 degrees. And it's making the shaft face alignment almost 2 degrees closed. Okay, so that's like kind of like saying if you could bend that shaft and freeze it in this deformation state at impact, I freeze it the way I just told you, lean it forward, bend it, toe it down 8 degrees, and then twist it 2 degrees shut. That's how that shaft is behaving for your swing at impact. That's how it's reorienting it. So if you were at a store and you could see all these shafts bent that way, frozen, you could make a better influence. You could make a better decision of what's right for you. Is it bent up high enough? Is it bent shut enough, or should it be more open? All those make a difference, right? Now over here we have things like kick, right? How much is a shaft bending in a way that's influencing added club head speed toward the target? And this shaft was giving us 1.8 miles an hour more kick. So if the shaft was infinitely stiff, you would get 0 kick, right? Okay. So everything here is in reference to an infinitely stiff shaft, which can do nothing. So kick is great. Whenever you get it, that's what you want. More is better, generally speaking.
So generally a lighter flex would give you more kick?
Not necessarily true.
Okay.
It's a function of the design, right? And sometimes, and there's a lot of things going on there. It's not just flex, it's also torque.
Right.
And we're doing all that research right now with ENSO, so it's a loaded question. I wish I could answer it in one sentence, but I can't. You have to come back for another episode. Something here called bounce kick is something people don't think about. The shaft can't just kick toward the target magically. It's kicking in a direction kind of like away from you and toward the target-ish. Okay. And so like there's a component in this speed and a component away from you. And there's actually we call that bounce kick. That's the kick that's actually going away from you. The head's kind of flexed down as far as it can go, and it's actually bending upwards away from you. Okay? And we target that, we could get that velocity too. And for this case, it was 4 miles an hour. We actually know where you hit the ball at the impact location, right? Vertical impact location here was 1.68 inches low, and it was 0.7 inches toward the heel.
Okay.
So we have this impact location at a real high level of accuracy. Now the path we have at 4.6 degrees inside out, and attack 1.8 degrees down. Now the next thing is kind of cool is the club head speed here at max handle speed. We talked about where your max hand speed was. Mm-hmm. One of the first things, and it was like 24 miles an hour. And here we're saying what's the club head speed at that point? And at this point it was 65.8 miles an hour. Okay. Club head speed's already moving 65.8 miles an hour. And then we say what was it at impact? Okay? At impact it went to 120. And what I like to look at here is a difference in speed between those two. At max hand speed, your club head's 65 miles an hour. At impact, it's 120. You're adding, you can do the math there, you're adding like almost 55 miles an hour.
And that was with a slight decel that we talked about
That
earlier.
decel actually lets it release.
Lets it go through.
So you're looking at this 55 mile per hour amplification speed, right? And what we notice is, your max hand speed's mostly going to occur, and let's go to this video here, and you can see max hand speed's mostly occurring when your elbow comes to its side, right around here, right there. Okay, that's usually max hand speed.
Okay.
You see how loaded this club is in its angle? Because it's got to get from here to here in a real short amount of time, the speed jacks up. Now let's say your club head was over here and your shaft was over here. Mm-hmm. That means you cast. We see this all the time. Your club head speed would be very fast at max hand speed, but you would just add very little speed going into impact.
Okay.
Yeah, so those guys have low club head speeds because of that. So simply, you got to get into this right form, or you simply won't get over 100 miles an hour. Right? So these are kind of the things that we could bring in to our analysis to fit better, because we now know how what your swing was, what your inputs were, and how the shaft behaves, and then how the club reorients.